Welcome to the Writers Clinic, coming to you from Kahawa Sukari Avenue, 1335, Kahawa Sukari Estate, Nairobi. In today's episode, we are going to talk about the experiences that writers go through, their struggles to survive, their loneliness, and their problems generally. Not long ago, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the best novelist Kenya has ever produced, visited his homeland, Kenya, in what should have been a big event for the country and for aspiring writers. Ngugi wa Thiong'o is not only the best writer Kenya has ever produced, but his life story presents important lessons for anyone who desires to undertake the lonely, miserable, and dangerous journey to the kingdom of writers. Now, if you did not know, there is something that writers share with mountain gorillas, elephants, rhinos, and certain species of birds. They are all endangered creatures. Fortunately, for the animals and birds, poaching has been outlawed and specific intervention strategies have been established to protect them. But for the writer, especially the African writer, survival is a daily stunt at escaping from poachers, and poachers in quotes. Faced with a hostile environment that does not enhance his or her art, the writer has to become what we call in Kiswahili an abunwasi in order to continue writing. The onslaught on the African writer is so severe that those surviving are the few with extraordinary adaptability skills learned from the trickster tradition. Let me explain this. Being a man or woman endowed with the power of imagination to create a world of his or her own and populate it, the writer is some kind of God. Just think of this. The writer creates human beings and gives them enough sorrows, happiness, joy, love, and bitterness. It is this power that made Okot Pabitek to conclude that the writer is the true ruler of the world in his book entitled Artist the Ruler, that was published posthumously. Given his or her special attributes, the writer is bound to find himself or herself on the wrong side of the mundane politics of his or her time. The writer is always a victim of the religious, and political bigotry of the times. It is not just Ngugi wa Thiong'o who has suffered because of this. Salman Rushdie is still busy trying to dodge the fundamentalists who are out for his head, long after publishing his book entitled The Satanic Verses. How long the hunt will take really depends on Salman Rushdie's Abunuasism. His predicament is not an isolated case. It is unfortunate fact that writers all over the world have to always be on the run in order to continue writing. The easier option, and many writers have taken this path, is to abandon writing altogether and join those who see no significance in what we do. Let me give you examples from the last century that demonstrates what I mean. Long before our generation of writers, Fyodor Dostoevsky, the great Russian writer, had gone through an even more severe ordeal comparable to none. On April 23rd, in the year 1849, Dostoevsky and others were arrested for plotting a revolution and spreading illegal propaganda. Dostoevsky spent 8 months in prison before a sentence of death by firing squad was pronounced and the last rites were offered. Dostoevsky and 3 others were led out to be shot. At the last possible moment, the guns were lowered and a messenger arrived with information that the Tsar had decided to spare their lives. The mock execution ceremony was in fact part of the punishment. Now, one of the prisoners went permanently insane on the spot. Dostoevsky went on to write the famous novel entitled Crime and Punishment, which, in my estimation, is the greatest novel in the world. Now, politics and religion are not the only things that make the writer an endangered creature. Some years ago, our own Major Mwangi lamented that he no longer gets to meet anybody who has read his books, which makes him wonder whether it is worthy writing anymore. I have found myself asking the same question. Living in a society where the educated never developed finer senses of enjoying good literature makes the writer to often talk to himself or herself. Everywhere I go, people prefer cheap talk and idiocy to enjoying the pleasures of the fruits between the covers of a good novel. We prefer obscenities and tribal stereotypes and innuendo, perfected, of course, in modern Kenyan comedy. Some writers are in danger not because of forces outside their profession, but from within. Literary creativity and literary criticism are the two arms of the literary discipline that need to support one another. But this is not always the case. Some insensitive, semi-literate critics elect, like politicians, to either bring a writer or a book down. If you doubt this, ask the famous English writer Thomas Hardy, the one who gave you that famous novel, The Mayor of Casterbridge. Thomas Hardy was disgusted by the hostile reception of his novel entitled Jude the Obscure. This is what led him to abandon writing fiction. He argued that though he was always remarkably and at times astonishingly amenable to suggestions from his publishers, it was a strain for him to submit his work to what he called the evaluations of limited and ignorant reviewers and to the shallow and fickle tastes of the reading public. To him, these readers seemed resolutely determined to avoid any presentation of life that was not sweet, sentimental, and simplistically optimistic. Thomas Hardy's case is still as relevant as it was in the 19th century Europe. But besides this, the need to survive and to put food on the table for the family and societal demands puts the writer in poor countries like Kenya in a more precarious situation. When you look at all this, one thing is very clear. Writing is simply not for the faint-hearted. That brings us to the end of today's episode. On behalf of my sound controller, Pambi Igara, and my cinematographer, Neka Igara, I want to welcome you once again to our next episode, coming to you from Kahawa Sukari Estate, Kahawa Sukari Avenue, 1335.